Hello and welcome everyone to the North American International Showdown for the Devon Corporation. I am Hurricane Kaz and I am joined tonight by the amazing Al Phoebe to talk about this amazing showcase of battles. Phoebe, how are you doing tonight?
You're doing great. Had a good day at work. It's Friday night. Looking forward to the weekend and looking forward to some great battles.
Yeah, it's a great weekend for grassroots PvP. We are just one of many tournaments that are showing off, but we do want to showcase the Devon Corporation and their creative meta for this international showdown. As you might remember, viewers, from previous international showdowns, the way it works is anyone can join from any region, right? But only the top performer in North America will receive that $100 prize. But the first place winner does get that precious World Championships invite for the Devon Corporation. So, here tonight, we are featuring again the North American International Showdown. And we had a little hiccup when we were going to show this live with some production errors. So, we unfortunately have to record and play it for you later. But we did want to make sure we showcase the amazing run of Out of Pocket, our North American International Showdown winner. And yes, he did also win the European International Showdown, if you remember correctly. So definitely on a hot streak in terms of Devon Corporation. And this is a new meta from that previous international showdown in Europe that he won previously. This is the Ascension Cup. So let's take a look at our graphic here and see what this meta includes. The allowed types are electric, fire, psychic, along with the allowed species of Starmie and Lapras. Banned types include dragon, ghost, ground, rock, metals, water, and normal, with banned species being Morpeko, Dedenne, Bellybolt, and Malamar. Shadows also not allowed, which is fun for me because I never use shadows anyway.
You're one of those people. Uh,
I am one of those people. I'm going to get an A from the professor, everyone.
and it's really interesting that two water types were allowed, and it is specifically to typically Psywave users. I mean,
Yeah.
Lapras obviously has access to Water Gun, Ice Shard, Frost Breath if you, for whatever reason, want to use that. But uh, it's an interesting selection. Obviously, Starmie makes a lot of sense to me. It's
Hmm.
not the bulkiest water type, so you're not really putting on a huge amount of pressure. But Lapras is, it's such a great Pokemon that it is extremely dominant in the Open Great League. So uh, obviously, looking at the typings, electric types are going to scare it away a little bit, and fire types are neutral into it, and psychic types are going to resist that psi wave. So I guess that kind of explains maybe a little bit as why a really bulky Pokemon like Lapras was allowed.
Yeah, it is interesting to me that we have these two water Psywave users as well. They do that super effective damage against the fire types, but they are pretty neutral into everything else. And Starmie sharing that psychic typing as well is gonna be kind of an interesting almost counter to the psychic types, since it has with Psywave has some pretty fast access to its own moves. And it's got some pretty interesting ones, actually. The PV Poke recommendation is Psywave Surf and Power Gem. Surf is going to come along so fast. And with those recent buffs, I can imagine it can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, and Power Gem, of course, coming in for shoring up the Lapras matchup, and you're going to resist the Psy Waves coming back at you. You're going to resist the Sparkling Arias. You can just resist the Surfs if, for whatever reason, your opponent's forgotten to TM, like I may or may not have done a few times in Battle Frontier.
we've
Uh,
all we've all been there.
Having super effective damage is just really solid for that matchup. I want to talk a little bit about typings because the allowed typings and the banned typings are a bit interesting to me. So, electric, you have two types that resist or are immune. So, you have your immunity in ground, so double resisting for Pokemon Go. You have grass typing resisting, which is going to be one of the allowed types. However, you're pairing that with fire typing as one of the most offensive typings in the game. And if we're looking at the ban types, basically all of its resistances have been banned here. You have Dragon Band, you have Rock Band, you have Water Band. The only resistance that isn't banned is fire itself, right? So
Hmm.
I expect fire types to be pretty strong, especially anything that has coverage moves into fire types themselves.
Yeah, those two water types were probably needed, honestly, to balance it out a little bit, since none of the allowed typings are actually super effective into one another. They're all very neutral. So you got to have some advantages somewhere. Someone's got to be able to play into into someone. And looking at the PvP poke ratings, we've got a lot of fire types towards the top. The Ninetales, the Kanto Ninetales is actually sitting there at number one, along with other fire types like Armarouge at number four, Castform in its Sunny variety at number six. So that fire actually offers a lot of superpower up there at the top. But the psychic typing does have a lot of like attack variety. Grumpig sitting up there at number two, access to Dynamic Punch and Shadow Ball. So can actually throw some pretty interesting damage across the field.
Very infrequently, both of those moves are resisted. Ninetales, again, you mentioned it. Scorching Sands has been fairly recently added to its move pool. Ember's been very recently buffed, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of them. Spoiler, there is an Armarouge right below me, and it has the psychic attack Psyshock, which was also very recently buffed. I've been
Hmm.
wanting to see Muse in the Open Great League show up again. Muse been a really strong Pokemon in a variety of different metas that we've seen over the not 9 years because that's how long Go's been out in general. So like maybe 7 years that PvP has been around, right? It's
We
been
don't
a
need to
it's been
talk
a long
about those
time.
numbers. We don't need to acknowledge that, right? What I do, since you're already getting into it, what I do want to take a look at is these teams. As I mentioned, we are looking at the out of pocket run in this tournament. So his team over there on the left side of your screen will be featured for this entire video, but the opposing team will change out each round. So let's take a look at those teams. Out of pocket running the Incineroar, the Chimecho, the Grumpig, the Emolga, that Armarouge you mentioned, and the Galvantula. And what do you see over on Staffordshire?
That is two electric types that I don't think I've ever seen play for. Let me make sure that I'm going to say it correctly. Electros?
Yeah,
I
I
don't know how
believe
to
that's
spell it
right.
apparently. Uh, Sorry, what was that, Kaz?
Oh, I believe that's right. I believe
Yeah.
Electros is the final form. Yeah.
And Volt, I believe is the pronunciation.
Question marks?
We got a Hypno, Magmar, another Incineroar, as well as Lapras. So some Pokemon that we probably haven't seen. I really love Hypno as a Pokemon. It was the Portland regional. I was chatting with another long time person who's been in the scene. House Stark. I was blanking on his name for a half a second there, and he was like, "Yeah, I remember back in some tournaments, you used to love running Shadow Hypno, and it's absolutely correct. Like back in the olden days, Confusion was actually a good move, and now it's obviously just been outclassed. I don't think its metrics have been changed at all. I just think other moves around it have gotten significantly better. Pokemon that are good into Hypno have gotten better. Sableye is obviously a big powerhouse now, and it was around back then too, but it wasn't maybe quite as good as it is now because we didn't have level 50 and it wasn't XL. Um,
Hmm.
so I love Hypno, but actually what the psychic type that I like even more is Out of Pockets. That Chimecho, I think looks really good into the meta.
Yeah.
Astonish is such a hard-hitting move. We've seen it be useful on a lot of different Pokemon. I've played myself with Shadow Dusknoir. It's actually what I hit Legend with last season. Just absolutely RPSing opponents with the damage that Shadow Astonish can do. And with a
Hmm.
meta that's going to have a good number of Psychic types, I think it's going to have a lot of good play.
I totally agree with you. That is a very unique psychic pick that can do a lot of damage against its fellow psychics. You talked a lot about Hypno, and it seems odd to run it because of the confusion not really landing with a lot of the other psychic types on the field. But Hypno does have the advantage of what punch are we going to see here? Or is it going to be that shadow ball? So the charged attacks from that Hypno are actually a pretty nice asset to have in this game. And we do see Incineroar on both of these teams. That's one Pokemon when I initially started looking at this meta that I was like, oh, this is just going to be real good. Because the Darkest Lariat, the kind of specialty move that this Pokemon got, not for its community day, it's kind of the signature move for this Pokemon that it got access to. In addition to that Blast Burn, is a really, really strong dark type move. And in this meta, it can hit everything pretty neutrally, if not super effectively.
That is one powerful move. 2.4 TPE is out of this world. I'll be a bit curious though to see if if we typically see it being running double kick or snarl. Both of those fast attacks are pretty solid in terms of the damage that they do, as well as the energy generation. Of course, double kick going to be a little bit better in the mirror since you're going to be doing super effective damage instead of resisted.
Well, we'll have to see what these Incineroars choose to do. Let's get into our first set of battles here. Out of Pocket versus Staffordshire 12.
All right, and on the left we have Pocket leading that Chimecho into the Electros. And Kaz, do you know anything about this matchup?
I have absolutely no idea. I do see that Chimecho doing a pretty good amount of neutral damage into this electric type, getting to that Psyshock very quickly. But the Electros does have access to Crunch, which is going to do a significant amount of damage if it early shield from Out of Pocket. Yes, at the last moment, shielding up that Crunch.
It's actually Electric. Is that the second
Oh,
evolution in that line?
oh
I,
my gosh.
I, I think it must be, and I think it's using Acid as a fast attack. Crunch coming through
Yes.
going to do big, super effective damage,
Oof.
losing both Switch and Shield advantage. How's Out of Pocket going to turn this around?
I'm not entirely sure. We do see a Magmar coming in against the Galvantula from Out of Pocket. The Karate Chop there is resisted, but has already reached the first Fire Punch against the Grumpig that Out of Pocket quickly swapped in. And we do see the shiny Incineroar coming in, running that Snarl, so it is doing a significant amount of damage already to the Grumpig from Out of Pocket. Another shield already going, so two shields still left on the side of Staffordshire, while Out of Pocket only has this Grumpig and the Dynamic.
He does have a good amount of energy loaded up onto that Galvantula. However, this Incineroar looks really good into the two remaining Pokemon. Pocket's going to be able to pull the last... Oh, actually doesn't get the last shield here. No shield. This Incineroar is going to get almost knocked out.
Ooh!
I'm surprised it held on.
Yeah, that is a huge amount of damage, but does hold on with just a few HP left to throw this Blast Burn and get the Grumpig off of the field. The Galvantula does come back in, already has a lot of energy, as you mentioned, but the Magmar is still left from Staffordshire 12 and is going to be able to do some significant damage of its own.
Yeah, shielding up the lunge makes a lot of sense. You want to preserve the health. Magmar is not going to be the bulkiest Pokemon. Fire Punch coming through, super effective damage. Not going to quite pull up a knockout, but I'm pretty sure after this... Oh, actually, Discharge, I don't think it's going to be enough to knock out. It's going to be really close.
Yeah, it is really close. Just a few HP remaining on that Magmar, enough for it to karate chop down just the one attack needed to knock out that Galvantula. So Out of Pocket actually losing that first match. And I do think the firepower from Staffordshire's side was really aggressive for Out of Pocket's line to.
Yeah, and the electric really did great in that first match. It won switch advantage and got shield advantage, which was really key for Staffordshire in that end game. Another good lead in game number two, a quick switch out, and it's going to be electric into, it's going to be, oh, no shield here.
Interesting. The Emolga does take does it it's neutral damage because it's a flying type, but the electric
Right.
type, yeah, okay.
I'm thinking
So
Pachirisu.
I know, right? The one electric rodent, if you've seen one electric rodent, you've seen them all. So Emolga does throw up a an acrobatics there and gets shielded by Staffordshire, but another is this a discharge already reached? And the Emolga does go down, this time out of pocket, saving those two shields, potentially for that Amarouge in the back.
Yeah, with Incinerate, it's going to be pretty impressive damage coming out from what is in a very attack-weighted Pokemon. A good catch on the lunge here. This is resisted damage going into the Magmar. And no water types on Out-of-Pocket's side means that this is a pretty safe catch. And
Mhm.
he has two fire types. He was playing ABA Fire here, really offering no play for Out-of-Pocket's Galvantula here in game number two.
Yeah, and that Galvantula could be a problem with the speed at which it reaches its moves, but we do see now a swap to that Amarouge, throwing up a shield here. It's very, very glassy, not going to be able to take these attacks, especially that Scorching Sands that was already reached by the Magmar there. So even shields now, but the Amarouge gets to incinerate all the way down.
Happened only because Staffordshire threw on poor timing. He let a full incinerate through there, and he could have potentially baited with a fire punch and then still landed a scorching sands had he thrown on proper timing and baited immediately. Flame charge thrown first, going to get shielded. You're gonna want to throw these flame charges. They're only single resisted here, whereas the psychic type move is going to be double resisted. We're now double attack raise, going for the farm down,
Ooh.
but no, catches! Catches again onto this Galvantula. This is a great play from out of pocket to keep him in this game.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely needed there. Although now we do see a swap after that catch to the electric that does have energy for a crunch, but Pocket uses that last shield to protect this Pokemon. And now two Psyshocks are ready. The last shield going up from Staffordshire, but another one will be coming across quickly to get this Pokemon off of the field.
This is going to be good neutral damage. It will most definitely knock out Psyshock from an Armarouge. I have to imagine does about 50% of, if not more, of that health of that electric. I don't think I've ever seen that Pokemon being played in the GBL or any restricted meta. So like, I have no idea of how
Yeah.
exactly how bulky it is. And Armarouge is incredibly attack weighted. It is one of the Pokemon that is pretty difficult to get into the Great League.
Yeah, exactly. I think there were only a couple opportunities to get it from timed research, I think. So we do have a 1-1 tie so far, and now the matchup that again Staffordshire controls with the Incineroar against that Amarouge. We see a quick swap to the Galvantula from out of pocket, hoping to wheedle down that dark type Pokemon a little bit with neutral damage, and already reaching the first discharge against the Magmar that Staffordshire has now brought in.
Big a fan of exactly how slow Staffordshire swapped in here because it's now providing out of pocket the ability to throw this second discharge and threaten a shield away from this Magmar. He's going to reach two fire punches before the third discharge is loaded, but we could see out of pocket potentially go for a two shield farm down. Fury Cutter did just get buffed, but I don't think it's going to be enough here.
Oh, he is trying for that strategy. We do see the second shield going up here, but I think you're right. I'm not sure if the Fury Cutter is going to be enough. Just barely gets that Magmar off of the field. And we do have a ton of energy now to send into the Electic that comes in into this Galvantula matchup. The Acid doing some nice neutral damage, but will have to take these lunge. And the first one does almost 50% of its health.
And I actually had to look it up. I was struggling so hard to find this Pokemon on PvPoke because it's spelled EEL and not ELE. It's Electric. Good note for me and you, Kaz, given that I don't think either of
Tonight,
us
we
have
are
seen this
learning
Pokemon
all
before.
sorts of things.
All right, we've got an Incineroar Mirror. Hide your eyes, VG folks. I know you don't want to see this mirror match. This Pokemon scares you all. Blastburn coming through does a lot of good neutral damage. Don't think it's resisted damage. It's not enough to pick up a knockout here, but I don't think either of these Incineroars are going to be able to get a full Snarl down.
No, exactly. And we do actually see, while they are both running the fastest Snarl, we actually see one of these Incineroars with Blast Burn and the other with Blaze Kick, just a little bit faster at the cost of the damage itself. So now Incineroar does have a lot of energy, and we see the Lariat is ready. And with no shields, it is absolutely going to wipe this Armor off of the field. Oof.
That is a lot of damage. In comes the Galvantula. However, it gets the farm down. There's still a shield for Staffordshire, but you can't use the shield to block any of those fast attacks. There's just not enough energy there for him, and that is going to be game number 3 going to Out of Pocket.
Yeah, the buff to that Fury Cutter this most recent season, I definitely think has put that Galvantula in a really nice position for Out of Pocket, even though it is neutral into the Incineroar. Incineroar is not known for its bulk. So that Fury Cutter doing a lot of work and having the amount of health left on it, really nice play there from Out of Pocket in that first set of games.
And I think really importantly, barely able to get that fast attack down onto that Magmar. If he was unable to get that and the Magmar reached a Fire Punch, this game is completely different. He had invested both of
Yeah.
his shields. He needed to get that farm down. He was able to get 2 charge attacks into the Electric afterwards, which was incredibly impactful and gave him the opportunity to reach a win condition in that endgame.
Yeah, that was definitely a key moment right there. And it makes you wonder if Out of Pocket was familiar with that enough with that matchup to know, to be that confident, or if that was a Hail Mary moment.
Me? No, not familiar enough. Pocket, with how much he plays, with how good he is at the game. I want to go back to your comment. He did win the European Showdown. You know,
Mhm.
in the championship series, we haven't had someone out of region win a international championship, but it has happened for these showdowns, and I just want to point out that it was an NA that had theirs won. It was EU.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to prove a point here. So we do have 1 point now on the side of Out of Pocket, and now we get into his next matchup against Quack Power. So once again, we have Out of Pocket's team that we've already seen in action. Quack Power has a new team for us, and it is quite a unique looking team. Kanto Ninetales, Mew, the Grumpig, and Toxtricity, which is a Pokemon I honestly never thought I'd see. And the Pachirisu as well as the Lapras uh, on the side of Quack Power. The Pachirisu is actually a pretty interesting choice with pure electric type damage, but so much bulk.
You're not expecting to see Toxtricity after Butters showed it off so talentedly, getting very quickly O2'd by Elite.
Yeah, exactly. I think I saw what I needed. I mean, we don't have any sort of ground type fast attacks here that will get that off of the field as quickly as maybe we've seen before. So hopefully this is a little bit of a showcase where Toxtricity can maybe show that it's not truly terrible after when that double weakness doesn't come out to haunt it. But we do have some really strong picks over here, even though it's very different from previous team. What do you like over there on the side?
And I think Quack Power, it'll be really interesting to see what the Mew's running, right? It has access to
Hmm.
almost all of the fast attacks and almost all of the charge attacks in the game, which means that you can build your other five Pokemon and then slot it into your team and say, what other coverage do I need? And pick the exact moves that you want in order to get that coverage. So if you're a little bit weak to fire, you could have a additional water, or excuse me, an additional electric attack or water attack. Or if maybe you're afraid of your opponent using Toxicity, maybe you could bring a Mud Slap Mew onto your team and surprise them. I don't actually know if Mew learns Mud Slap. Like I can find that out real quickly.
This is something
uh,
that PV Pope can answer for us. The recommended moveset for this meta is that Shadow Claw, Wild Charge, and Shy Shock. But like you said, really, you can cover yourself for any weakness that your team has. Quackpower has built a pretty diverse team here. I think there's a lot of great coverage already available.
Unfortunately, I'm not seeing Mudslap on its list of fast attacks, so maybe
Oof.
one day they'll re-update the list because I'm pretty sure in the video game you can learn any move
Yeah.
because it is like the gene Pokemon or something like that, so it has
Hmm.
the ability to access all the moves of everyone else.
We
Like last game, I think, or like last match, excuse me, I think Grumpig will be very interesting to see. Toxtricity, like you mentioned, doesn't have to worry about its double ground weakness against any of Pocket's team, so maybe it has a little bit more play. It's very frail, but
Mhm.
again, packs a really uh, strong punch. I imagine though, maybe Quack Power only plays it if he feels like it's a really strong core breaker to Pocket's team, which looking at the team, I don't really think it is.
Yeah, I think the only play it has is against possibly that Galvantula, and we did see Pocket relying on it quite heavily in the last game. Um, we didn't really see the Lapras come out from Staffordshire, but honestly, I think Lapras could be a nice safe pick against Out of Pocket's team. Really able to deal some strong neutral damage, especially if you realize that that Galvantula is on Fury Cut instead of Volt Switch. It gives you maybe a slight bit of comfort in that matchup. but but let's get on to the field for these battles and see who comes out to play.
Once
It
again,
is
is it going to
the toxicity for Quack Power against the Amarouge from Out of Pocket.
Oh, and this Toxtricity is using what I believe is Acid once again. Acid being buffed in this most recent update makes it to be the fast attack of choice over Spark or even Poison Jab. Armarouge is going to reach the first fast charge attack, excuse me. It's going to be that flame charge to boost up that fast attack damage. I think just two more incinerates will knock out. So if Pocket would like to, he can shield this up and get a fast attack down.
And that does look to be the play that he wants to enact. We do see a shield going up there, protecting all the energy, and a swap now to the Pachirisu from Quack Power, going to shield up this boosted Psyshock there, and Galvantula comes in to soak this electric type damage.
This is going to be a pretty good matchup for the Galvantula. It's doing neutral damage with both its fast attack and its
Mhm.
charged attack here, whereas Pachirisu is only going to have access to resisted damage into the electric typing of that Galvantula. We're going to see it here. This is likely a Thunderbolt, and it's
Mhm.
just not going to do a ton of damage.
Yeah, it's already been debuffed to once by the lunge already. So we see just how strong Galvantula actually can be. Most people think of this Pokemon as being quite glassy, but in the right matchups, it can do a lot of damage. And we do see Pachirisu opting to save some health, swapping out in favor of the Kanto Ninetales. There are no more shields left in play, so this fire type damage is going to be super effective. And we see now the Chimecho coming in from pocket take this first fire type weather ball.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Quack Power, not having access to a hard-hitting overheat here means that I think he's going to get knocked out by the Psyshock. Psyshock is such a good move now after the update, and Astonish, a similarly strong move, is likely going to provide the ability to farm down both Pokemon. No, I think this Pachirisu is going to reach a Thunder Punch first.
Yes, it does. But actually, the Chimecho reaches its Psy Shock and does win the charged attack priority.
That is going to pick up the knockout. Toxicity comes in. Toxicity not nearly as bulky as that Pachirisu and is quickly fainted with that fast attack pressure from Astonish. It did get to the Thunder Punch, but as you called out, because it is so bulky, it loses that charge attack tie
Mhm,
and the quick pacing. Astonish is a very hard hitting uh, kind of low energy generating move. I think it's been buffed
mhm.
a number of times so that it gains more and more energy now. And oh, this is a really good lead for Pocket. Although you might be saying, hey, this Mew has Shadow Claw as well. Just look at how these
Oh my gosh.
astonishes add up so quickly.
Oh my gosh, yes, this Mew is already below 50% health just from Astonished damage alone. We do see it going for the hard-hitting Wild Charge, and Chimecho takes it, able to get to a charged attack just before it loses its health. And we see a quick team check there on the side of Quack Power as their Pachirisu comes in to soak the damage. And now we see this matchup that we saw in the very first game as well. The Galvantula coming in to soak this pure electric type damage and doing neutral damage with those buffed Fury Cutters.
I was not expecting to see out of pocket no shield there. I thought he was gonna go for a one shield matchup, and I was similarly surprised to see Quackpower go for the wild charge. I did not think it was gonna knock out, but back into this mid game, we see the Galvantula in another team check just be able to dominate that matchup. But in comes the Ninetales. The Ninetales is going to get a farm down, but probably going to put up a shield because this Galvantula does do a good amount of damage with this discharge.
Yeah, exactly. Shielding here is going to allow you to possibly Ember down, but we do see a quick swap from out of pocket to the Grumpig, which is, I mean, it's not the bulkiest Pokemon, but it can take this neutral damage pretty well from the Ninetales. And since that Psy Wave allows it to get to its charged attacks very quickly, we will see a little bit of over farm here before the Grumpig throws a first move, but does allow the Ninetales to get to another Scorching Sands, forcing Pocket to throw up that last shield.
Yeah, I guess wanting to farm to 100 energy here so that if he
Mhm.
knocks out this Ninetales, he can bring energy into the Mew afterwards. Dynamic Punch not enough to knock out. Going for the farm down and is going to
Oh,
take a parting Weather Ball for his troubles. Will this be enough to knock out? Grumpig's pretty bulky.
I mean, I think it's just barely not going to be enough. Just a few HP remaining, and we see a dynamic punch going towards this Mew here. The last shield now coming up from Quack Power. Dynamic punch wouldn't be enough, but now has energy saved on that Grumpig for the end game here. And Galvantula comes in to throw this discharge. That Fury Cutter really unappreciated by the Mew.
And really importantly, Discharge recently had its damage lowered, but
Mhm.
also its energy lowered. It's not as, I don't think it's as efficient of a move as it once was, but had it not had its energy lowered, he would have not been able to reach that discharge there. You saw that the lunge was still a couple of Fury Cutters away,
Mhm.
and I'm pretty sure he would have gotten fainted by any additional fast attack damage coming his way.
Yeah, exactly. So Pocket takes the second game in that series, and we're going into the third battle now. Another bad lead for Pocket, but we've seen him get out of so many of those already. The Kanto Ninetales now up against the Chimecho, which Pocket swapped in, and the Scorching Sands already reached, going to go unshielded.
Yeah, it's expecting a bait, I have to imagine. We do see the attack drop this time. I don't think we saw one either time last time. We do see a correct shield usage from Quackfire here, recognizing I think my opponent's only going to get to one charge attack here, so I might as well shield up what is
Mhm.
likely going to be a Shadow Ball. And his energy is going to be quite good into the Pokemon in the back. It is running Surf as well as that Wild Charge, and I had it always slips my mind that Surf was also changed. It's now more
Mhm.
energy for more damage. It's a little more efficient, but I think it paces at the same time as Wild Charge now, whereas in latter years you could Surf and then go into Wild Charge and you would save a little bit of energy.
Yes, we do see that Surf doing a significant amount of damage, but unfortunately, and now Kanto Ninetales comes in to take damage from the Amarouge that Pocket in the back. A shield going up to protect this glassy Pokemon from the resisted Weather Ball.
In comes the Grunpig doing Psywaves as fast as it can, but it's going to be taking a pretty hard hitting Flame Charge here. Not going to be enough to knock out, but puts it pretty deep into the yellow. I think maybe maybe two more Incinerates after this next boost, but no, instead just letting it go does not hang on, unfortunately.
Yeah, that Grumpig sort of soaking up a lot of damage from Pokemon, so that Ninetales can have a shield. But since those flame charges went through, this Incinerate from Amarouge is doing an absolutely insane amount of damage, fellow fire type. And we see Ninetales going on the field. One shield still left in play for Quack Power. Oof, that Amarouge hiding behind a shield just stole the end game there.
The incinerate damage after flame charge boosts on an attack weighted Pokemon, it's a lot of damage. It's just even resisted, it looks like it's
Mhm.
super effective.
Yeah, against that Ninetales, and Ninetales is also sort of a fairly bulky Pokemon. And seeing how much that Incinerate was doing after those two flame charges is just absolutely absurd. Um, had plenty of energy on it, but just could not stack damage fast enough to avoid that Incinerate. So well played there from Out of Pocket. Really good knowledge of Pokemon. Um, Even though we saw him play that Galvantula really well again, but bringing out some new members of his team that Astonish from the Chimecho, really powerful against Quackpower's team.
Yeah, and I've seen how much he leans into the Armourouge. It'll be curious to see, well, if any other trainers have a good answer for it, and uh, I feel like I'm
Are we?
looking
Is the
into a
screen
mirror or something.
mirroring? Is did we?
It's right here.
I don't think we're seeing things. I think we're seeing the same team on both sides. Out of pocket we are familiar with, but on the other side we now have great minds think alike apparently, and we do see the exact same Pokemon. This is always a tricky situation. I don't know about you. Entire mirror matches like this, it drives me absolutely insane.
Yeah, I thankfully haven't played too many mirror matches recently. I actually cannot remember the last time I have. It really comes down to figuring out the best three Pokemon against your team of six, and then potentially iterating on that once again to figure out, okay, instead of just instead of all six of my Pokemon, what if I just focus on those three that are the best? Is there another one in those other three Pokemon that I'm not choosing that maybe gives me better play against those other three? And in a more condensed meta with
Mhm.
bans as well as restricted Pokemon and uh, only specific allowed types. Usually that's not the case, so you end up playing kind of the same three Pokemon as your opponent. I probably expect a good amount of that Armarouge based on how much
Hmm.
Pocket's been using it. I know that I'm pretty sure that him and SS Thorn did do theory crafting together for these teams, if I'm recalling a Twitter post correctly.
Hmm.
Um, so I imagine both of these trainers know this team's ins and outs, and also has a
Hmm.
good idea of what the other trainer is thinking about the team as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. The Armor Rouge with that incinerate damage. I mean, we've seen how it is against even resisted types in previous battles. So I do think that that might be a strategy for both of these players. I also think that the Incineroar could do really well. I mean, we see two types that can do super effective damage to with both fast and charge attacks. So I think that that's another Pokemon that they relying on. And we've seen how Out of Pocket has played the Galvantula to their advantage before. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him relying on that again.
Yeah, I'd be very curious to see how it is into the Armarouge, given that it is doing neutral damage with
Mhm.
that fast attack with Fury Cutter, super effective against the Psychic resisted by the fire. It's actually going to be doing neutral or super effective damage against every Pokemon on SS Thorn's team, besides not Pachirisu. It is the flying type Emolga, so it is resisted there.
Yes, that is the one true resistance that we have these two teams. So let's get onto the field and see this mirror match in action and how these two actually play it to their own weaknesses. And we do see right off the bat a Galvantula mirror. I imagine both are on that Fury Cutter, yes, and they are doing significant neutral damage to one another.
It is going to be an immediate lunge, and SS Thorn does win the charge attack tie, which is a big advantage here. However, looking at the backlines, I think potentially after this no shield, we're going to see a no shield from SS Thorn, and Out of Pocket might get an energy advantage with a reverse farm down here. No, actually, both trainers just immediately switch.
Immediately swapping out, saving that little bit of health, but no energy. And we see Emolga coming in from SS Thorn against the Incineroar from Out of Pocket. And the acrobatics does get shielded. Great use of the shield there. And we see a lot of energy already on this Incineroar, ready to throw against the fairly bulky Emolga, but another shield does come up. And we've seen it before. Out of Pocket's Incineroar is actually running Blaze Kick. Slightly less powerful than Blast Burn, but is reached very quickly. A second one already coming out against the Emolga.
I'm a bit surprised he didn't go for the Darkest Lariat there, given that I think he is well outside of discharge range and would have outpaced the acrobatics, but maybe just comfortable getting another farm down here, or maybe just going straight Blaze Kick here, knowing, hey, since I can survive a discharge, I can always win the two shield matchup because I can get two extra blaze kicks in while my opponent reaches for three acrobatics. We have the Incineroar coming in. We've seen this mirror match before. There is a catch available for both trainers in the back.
But we do see the last shield going up from SS Thorn to protect their Incineroar from this Darkest Lariat from Out of Pocket, and a lot of energy. Anticipating a catch there, a slight pause on the Incineroar there, as Out of Pocket does come in with a Galvantula to try and catch some energy, but instead gets snarled down.
Do we think this knocks out Kaz?
I'm pretty sure it'll knock out. The Darkest Lariat absolutely one hit KOs that Amarouge that remained in the back from Out of Pocket off of the field, and another Darkest Lariat already available on SS Thorn's Incineroar to get rid of Out of Pocket's Incineroar, and a little animation there from SS Thorn's Incineroar as we lead victory for SS Thorn.
And it's not too often in Pokemon Go that you get a complete one hit knockout Oftentimes it comes after like one or two fast attacks and a little bit of chip damage, and then the
Mhm.
charge attack does like 99% or 98%, and then it picks up the knockout. That was a true 100-0 moment. Let's go into game number 2 here, where we are in a second mirror match, Armarouge into Armarouge, and again, it's going to be very key here. Who wins the charge attack priority? And it looks like Pocket going for Flame Charge, SS Thorn going for Psyshock, but SS Thorn once again wins Charge Attack priority.
Exactly. And we do see that flame charge going unshielded here. I don't think this will be quite enough to knock out, but it doesn't do quite as much as that Psy Shock. But now these incinerates are doing a little extra damage. We see another Psy Shock ready from SS Thorn already from Pocket to protect the energy. No, letting Amarouge go down so that potentially one of these electric type Pokemon in the back can get a little bit of energy advantage.
I was actually expecting the Galvantula to come in, but instead it's the Emolga going for Discharge instead of Acrobatics. Going to be a little bit of a safer play here, getting good chip damage in, not enough to threaten a knockout. No shield from SS Thorn is the right call there. One more Discharge now being thrown before a Darkest Lariat can be reached, so a shield does come up from SS Thorn.
Yeah, exactly. Needing to protect the energy on this Incineroar that did so well for them in the last game. Uh, the This is the Blast Burn. If I no, this is also a Blaze Kick. They are running the exact same move. So another already reached, ready to knock this Emolga off the field. Very low. How go? Opting to save their shields and energy for the Galvantula in the back.
Galvantula comes in, and this is going to be a tough farm down, but after one shield's being put up, because the Fury Cutters are neutral because of the dark subtyping from this Incineroar, it is going to be that fast attack down, and energy advantage in a mirror match is everything. You don't have to worry about losing the charge attack tie if you are up an entire charge attack.
Exactly right. And we see the first lunge already from Out of Pocket to debuff the attack from SS Thorn's own Galvantula. The lunge, their first lunge for their Galvantula, getting shielded now. Another lunge all by Pocket's Galvantula. And with the attack debuffs, that's not quite enough to knock out, but we will see that buff Fury Cutter actually be able to knock the opposing Galvantula. There is enough left on this bug that it can very quickly Fury Cutter through team.
All right, and that is going to even up our game score 1-1 Out of Pocket. Going to be in a perilous game number 3 here against his good friend SS Thorn in a mirror match. We've seen two exact same leads, but different backlines. Kaz, are we going to see a third game with a
Can we
mirror
do it a
lead?
third time? Yes! The two Alvantulas out on the field once again. Will we see it play out the exact same way? We do. Fury Cutter powering through until the lunge is reached. But actually, we have already seen how SS Thorn wins the charge attack prior time, opting to go ahead and get some extra Fury Cutters through before their own lunge.
Was that a charge attack tie?
Was
Do
it
these
because
traders have the same
do they
exact
have these?
attack stat?
Oh
They
my gosh.
must. That is insane. Also, we do have an entire mirror match here, but it is not going to play out as a perfect mirror. Pocket bringing in the Emolga, SS Thorn bringing in the Incineroar does disrupt our parity here. Discharge coming through. Will we see a Darkest Lariat, or will it just be another Blaze Kick? It's been Blaze Kick each and every time for these two trainers in this matchup.
They do tend to play it the exact same way, but another discharge will see evening out of the shields from SS Thorn to protect the energy that remains on this Incineroar. They do go all the way up to the Dark Lariat, and now actually going for it, daring Out of Pocket to protect the Olga or Darkest Lariat lands and a massive amount of damage. But can this bug Fury Cutter down? An actual catch on their own, on Out of Pocket's own Incineroar of this Blaze Kick.
And that's actually huge because he was able to get a lunge in the back line. And I'm sorry, I thought it was Emolga. The screen I'm looking at is a little bit small, so it's not a Emolga. It is instead the first time in this mirror match that we have seen this Chimecho come out, and it's for SS Thorn, and it is unfortunately not in a matchup that it wants to be in. It has Darkest Lariat loaded in from this Incineroar. In the back, there is a lunge, so it doesn't really matter that you have a shield on
Yeah.
SS Thorn side. He recognizes, hey, if I shield this Lariat, I'm just going to take a lunge from the Galvantula in the back, so I think I just lose this game, and that's going to be game number 2 going into Out of Pocket.
Yeah, unfortunately, that choice to bring in the Chimecho, I put SS Thorn in a really tough spot in that end game, especially since Pocket was very good with their energy and their timing, making sure that Galvantula stayed in play. I think, like you were saying, was really key to having that in the back, but also all of the energy on the inside.
Yeah, so that was 3 games back to back to back that we had mirror leads. A little bit funny. Unfortunately, none of the 3 times it was actually all the same Pokemon. We saw SS Thorn have that Chimecho there in game number 3. I was really interested in game number two's Armarouge mirror. I feel like, as we've gone further into Pocket's run here, that's slowly becoming my favorite Pokemon on his team of 6.
You're right. It's definitely a very strong pick, and we've now seen several ways in which it can do significant amounts of damage once it's buffed its own attack. And that newly buffed Psyshock is so strong. I actually thought that it would not do as much damage as it did to the opposing Armarouge. I thought that the Flame Charge would do more and buff the attack. But that, even though that was a surprise, that's kind of an interesting thing to know going forward. And now we know why Pocket has shown to rely on that Armarouge being in the back so many times.
Right, we've said it before. I'll say it again. Hard hitting, incinerate, high attack Pokemon plus flame charge. It's a mathematical formula for success.
Truly, this is the quick maths with Phoebe now. And it looks like we do have our next set of teams on the, well, singular team. We're all familiar with Out of Pocket's team by now, but we have Snorlax over there on the opposing side now. And this is a team that we've seen similarly before. It looks very much like Quack Power's team, except we have Galvantula instead of that Pachirisu.
That's a great call out. I was very close to saying it is the exact same team. Apparently, all electric types look the same to me. I've been mixing up Pachirisu and Emolga. Now Galvantula and Pachirisu, but yeah, the Toxtricity, the Mew. I'd be curious to see if it is the same Shadow Claw, Surf, and Wild Charge. I think thinking about the meta, let me go back to the Ascension Cup graphic that I have. It makes a lot of sense. You have water for the fire,
Mhm.
and you don't have all that many great ground attacks from the Mew move pool. So
I think
I
we've
think.
seen I think we've seen Mew run like Rock Slide in a few
Mm,
other occasions before. That might be an option if you want to be able to deal some pretty nice, super effective damage against the Galvantula, against the Emolga, against the Armarouge, the Incineroar. So that might be an option we see trainers explore, but I honestly don't know if Rock Slide, like the pacing of it, is going to be as good as that Surf Wild Charge combo.
Or Rock Slide has paid the price of being attached to Galarian, Stunfisk, and other really strong Pokemon, and it's been hit with, I think, 3 nerfs over the years, energy and damage. So
Say it was a
it has
good
just,
move.
yeah, it's taken a beating. All right, well, if you're ready, Kaz, why don't we hop into these battles and see what Snorlax and Pocket have in store for us?
Yeah, let's get onto the field. And we do see the Amarouge coming out in the lead this time for Out of Pocket against the Galvantula from Snorik.
Thought he for a second he was going to stay in, but very smartly doing three Fury Cutters and then switching, ensuring that that first Incinerate does not land. Ninetales, even though it has access to Psyshock itself, is not a Psychic type, so it takes neutral damage from Armarouge's Psyshock, and an immediate switch out into the Chimecho means that he's going to be able to get a full farm down, but not before taking a Weather Ball Fire first.
Yeah, and there is another weather ball already ready. So if you want that farm down, he's gonna have to pay a shield for it. And we don't see that shield coming up. Just one like HP left and an ember down from the Kanto Ninetales there, allowing the Amarouge now to come in and get full incinerates worth of damage.
I really like that because for two embers, you get a full incinerate. And if we're doing math here, that's 20 more energy. We're getting even closer to more flame charges, and we are just absolutely going to tear through the rest of the team. Super effective Shadow Claws here, and different move set. This is going to be Dragon Claw, I imagine, coming in from this Mew a little bit cheaper. A simultaneous swap here from both of our trainers, and in comes this Incineroar. It does, as you have mentioned before, have access to Blaze Kick, shielding up this first lunge, going to allow it to get to that Blaze Kick and pick up some heavy hitting, super effective damage, but there are two shields still on Snorik's side.
Yeah, unfortunately, Pocket has given up both of his shields to protect these very glassy Pokemon on his team. But unfortunately, Snorik now can kind of dictate this matchup just with Fury Cutter alone, being able to do that neutral damage and get to the lunge very quickly, already knocking out the Incineroar. And we do see one Incinerate go through before this Psy Wave can come across, but Snorik has another shield ready, and the Fury Cutter, I think, is going to knock out that Amarouge before it can get to that last bit of charge attack energy. This was ultimately a battle of timing, knowledge of timing, I think, and Snorik took full advantage of that situation.
Yeah, just not enough bulk from Pocket's team, not getting the exact alignment he wants, right? Of course, he did have the Armarouge on the Galvantula in the lead, but unable to recapitalize and realign it. Another tough lead for him here. We see an immediate switch out into the Incineroar, and the Dragon Claw is paired with what looks like Wild Charge, so no super effective damage coming into this Incineroar. Kaz, you'll have to educate me. Is this open team sheets or closed team sheets?
Uh, I think that it's open. I'm fairly certain for this meta and all the other Devon Cups. So we do see the Incineroar now has a ton of energy, but after blocking that first wild charge, the Ninetales was able to come in and get a significant amount of energy on its own, over farming quite a bit before actually trying to bait with this weather ball.
I'm not sure if Snark will be able to reach a Scorching Sands, and an amazing call from Pocket. That could have been a Scorching Sands, but now instead, Pocket's going for a Blaze Kick of his own. He might have been able to get a Snarl down there, so not 100% sure it was necessary,
Mm.
but in comes the Galvantula, and it's going to have to shield up another
Oh.
Blaze Kick. Not if you catch it on your Mew, though.
Yeah, not if Mew can come in there just real quick to soak up that energy and actually has some health left now to throw quite a few Shadow Claws against this Grumpig. Grumpig already at both of its charge attacks, but Mew being Mew is gonna throw that wild charge and say, hey, if you don't want to shield this, that's your business. I'm gonna take all this damage and be fine with it. So Grumpig can, in fact, farm down, has two dynamic punches already loaded. They are resisted by the Galvantula here, but we see a shield coming up from Snorik all the same.
Dynamic Punch shielded is great news for Pocket and gets the Shadow Ball here. This is going to do a lot of neutral damage as opposed to resisted. Bug does not interact with the Ghost type in terms of its defensive properties. It is resisted by Ghost, and the singular Incinerate to pick up the knockout afterwards is going to secure Out of Pocket that game number 2.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that lead was pretty bad, but he's like, you know what? I'll just throw Amarouge in the back and we'll get there when we get there. It's been working in the past. Why not try it again? And truly the incinerate onto that Galvantula was enough to take it off the field. And now we see another sort of interesting lead situation. The Astonishes stack up quite quickly compared to the Shadow Claws from this Mew. But we've seen Snorlax not afraid to throw wild charges just as soon as he reaches them before, and it does land for a significant amount of damage on that Chimecho before Galvantula comes in to soak the first charged attack from this psychic type.
We've seen Pocket actually play this matchup exactly the same into Mew, no shielding the wild charge. Ooh, not able to reach that discharge there. Really painful for Snork. Probably going to be crucial here in the end game. Have to imagine
Mhm.
that this is a flame charge from Pocket. He loves throwing that charge attack to boost up that incinerate damage. And in the back is going to be that Ninetales. And with a shield out of play for Snorek here, it's going to be a bit tough for him in this end game. You know, it's a mystery to Snorek. It's a mystery to us what Pocket has in the back here. In comes the Ninetales. It's going to be met by a number of Psyshocks. Cass, have you been counting? Do you have any idea how much energy this Armorouge
think
has?
I think that it has a Psyshock, but we do see another Incinerate coming through before another is thrown. And this is going to be a huge Psyshock taking a significant amount of damage off of that Ninetales. And now we see it is the Incineroar in the back for Pocket. And oh, both both trainers kind of know the writing on the wall there with the Ninetales already being so low and the Incineroar coming in nice and fresh. So another point on the board leading to Out of Pocket's 2-1 victory over Snorek there. Just an
Yeah, Pocket
absolute
having a
insane knowledge of his Pokemon, both glassy in the back.
Yeah, Pocket having a shield there means that even if Snorlax able to get a bait, he's gonna lose that charge attack tie, and we saw that move being thrown off right before Snorlax had the ability to go for a Weather Ball Fire bait and a Scorching Sands throw. So Pocket, knowing that he's good, knowing that he's good to shield there, would have been able to shield up had Snorlax thrown earlier. Snorlax recognizing that he can't have a win condition in that endgame means that he's just going to be going for those fast attacks and turns off his recording before losing the game.
Yeah, there's not enough energy in the world that could have saved that Ninetales from that fate, unfortunately. But a really interesting way to see Mew played in that game. Slightly different moveset than we've seen before. And I mean, the lack of fear about throwing the wild charge and just dipping out, I think is a very valid strategy and one that did lead to Snorlax getting a point early on in those games.
Yeah, that's something that's been very consistent about all of our Mew players is that they are very unafraid to throw Wild Charge. I'm looking through the list of moves that Mew has access to, and Dragonflaw is actually the cheapest one by 5 energy. It is 35 energy, and its closest competitor is going to be low sweep with 40 energy and a very miserable amount of damage. So I don't think we'll ever be seeing anyone running low sweep
I
unless it's
really
a
hope not.
very dense, dark meta.
I really, really hope not. For all of your sakes. So we do have our next matchup available on the screen here, and we do see some familiar Pokemon on the side of Final Boss AJ, that Kanto Ninetales that we've seen in the previous matchup, as well as that Mew and Galvantula, Grumpig, and the Lapras. We've seen Lapras a lot on these team screens, but have yet to see it on the field, actually. And here we have that Vikavolt, which is the Charge Bug evolution. I wonder if we'll see that have any play. It does also have access to Crunch, which could come in handy against the Psychic types over there on Out of Pocket's side.
Yeah, and it's just hitting me now that he has three, right? He's got the Chimecho, he's got the Grumpig, he has the Armarouge, and he's used all six of his Pokemon. I want to say the Emolga's probably been the Pokemon he's used the least of on this team. I've
I would agree
definitely
with that.
it's either the Emolga or the Chimecho, but
Mhm.
both have come in handy in different spots, right? I guess it kind of comes down to whether your opponent has Incineroar or not, whether or not you're comfortable bringing Chimecho, because that is absolutely not a matchup you want to be as Chimecho.
Honestly, this is probably a matchup where Chimecho has looked the best because there is no Incineroar over there on the opposing scene. And we've already seen how Chimecho's Astonish damage matches up against the Shadow Claw from that Mew. So honestly, if there is a time to really let Chimecho shine, I think this is the game for it here. And the other psychic types, honestly, are going to do well for the exact same reason. So I wonder if I mentioned how Lapras, we've seen on teams before and hasn't, made the field just yet. I wonder if we'll even see it here because honestly, the fact that it's running Psywave doesn't seem to do it any favors.
Yeah, I think that's probably why Pocket's built this team, right? He's kept his fire types very safe from the Lapras with the other psychic types. Makes me wonder, in the entire field of play, was there a singular water gun Lapras? Maybe, maybe not. But it would have definitely put a halt to Pocket's plans because Water Gun Lapras is not going to be as afraid of the psychic types. Between Grumpig and Armarouge, like I don't think it really wants to be in those matchups, given that Armarouge is going to be bulking up its fastest or I'm going to take that back. I don't know why I said Armarouge because Armarouge is going to be so afraid of Water Gun that I don't care that it's bulking up its attack stat with that flame charge. But the Grumpig has access to super effective dynamic punch, so that one you
Mhm.
probably want to avoid a little bit more. The last thing I want to talk about before I hand it over to you before we start these battles is what is the move set from Final Boss AJ here? We've seen two other ones. We've seen Surf Wild Charge.
Mhm.
We've seen Wild Charge Dragon Claw. Which moveset does Final Boss AJ believe is best for her team composition and to cover the Pokemon that she's weak to?
Honestly, if I'm thinking about it, I mean, I know we're going to see Wild Charge because there's just no reason not to have it. It just is such good neutral damage into everything except the Galvantula, and even then, the Galvantula is so glassy that it's nice to have a little bit something a little more powerful to throw at it. But if I'm looking at the rest of the team, I think honestly that buff to Surf is going to do you more favors than the speed of Dragon Claw.
To correct myself real quick, there's a second move that's 40 energy. Psyshock, which is actually good. It's not low sweep. It's so much better than low sweep. So I guess if there's going to be a reason to try to run a two low energy cost moves on the Mew, maybe it's Psyshock. It seems a little bit risky in a meta that's so heavily psychic focused.
Mhm.
Um, but
Yeah,
Armarouge is running Psyshock as well, so
yeah, but Armarouge has a much higher attack stat to back it up, so seems like it's doing a little more favors to that armored Pokemon than the Mew. But let's get onto the field and see if we see that Mew in action and what moveset it might be carrying. Oh, I'm sorry, Moveset.
very nice. All
And
right,
we
it is going to be Galvantula into Chimecho. This is not going to be the best matchup for Chimecho, so an immediate switch out into Armarouge, which is met by the Grumpig.
An interesting choice to swap in the Grumpig since your Psy Waves are not really doing any damage, and the Incinerate is only going to keep stacking with the power of that flame charge.
Going for the Shadow Ball here, I think is probably necessary. I don't think Final Boss AJ could have gotten to two dynamic punches based on how much damage these incinerates are doing.
Mhm,
Looking at Final Boss AJ's team, she doesn't have an amazing answer for this Armarouge. She does have the Mew. She
mhm,
does have her own Kanto Ninetales, which will resist the incinerate damage, but it doesn't
mhm.
deal a ton of damage back. So I think Out of Pocket might just safe swap this Armarouge as many times as he can, or as many times as he needs to.
Yeah, it's definitely a very safe Pokemon. And between the two backline options that Final Boss AJ had, I do think the Mew with its Shadow Claw damage is the safer option, especially since that Flame Charge did boost those Incinerates already. Galvantula would not be able to take very many. And now Mew has a lot of nice extra energy stored. And we do see a different Mew set here, Wild Charge and Psyshock. And a wild charge now going to be thrown against this Chimecho coming back in from out of pocket.
Galvantula and the Emolga swapped immediately. Lunge going to be able to reach before the first acrobatics, but going for the discharge, this is going to do more damage. It's not resisted. So
Mhm.
going to pick up about 50% of the health of this Emolga. Now, does Pocket go for the acrobatics? Yes, he does. There are no shields remaining. This is neutral damage into the bug and electric type, and does pick up the knockout.
That did not look like neutral damage. That looked like a ton of damage. And it does knock the Galvantula off of the field. So we do have a discharge now ready on the Emolga for the Mew. Even though that Mew was very close to its next charged attack, the Emolga has such high attack, it was able to get to that discharge and close out this game for out of pocket.
I'd be curious to see if he decides to switch up where he's putting this Armarouge, and how Final Boss AJ is able to handle it. I think potentially counter swapping with the Mew as opposed to the Grumpig would be a better call because you're able to whittle it down with the fast attack damage with those Shadow Claws. In game number two, we do see a more neutral lead. It's going to be the Mew, not throwing the neutral same type attack bonus Psyshock into the Emolga. It does a very respectable amount of damage into a
Yes.
very
I think
bulky electric type.
I think respectable is a very good way to put that because that Emolga is now into the red, does have a significant amount of energy, and the acrobatics now ready for the Kanto Ninetales that is swapped in for Final Boss AJ. Kanto Ninetales, a fairly bulky Pokemon, can take that acrobatics, but now in the red itself, although it does have a lot of energy ready for this Chimecho that Out of Pocket now brings in to soak this Weather Ball.
Yeah, I get the no shield call from Final Boss AJ. I too probably would have done the same thinking. Nah, I don't think he's gonna throw the acrobatics here. I think this is just a discharge, and that is a lot of damage into the second bulkiest Pokemon on Final Boss AJ's team. We're seeing, oh geez, a Shadow Ball here. This is
Oh,
gonna do a
and does
lot of
she
super effective
call it?
damage.
No, the Shadow Ball does knock out that
Oof.
Mew, the Chimecho now showing that it's the boss of this matchup, Amarouge, who and now has a Psyshock ready for this Lapras that we do see coming in for Final Boss AJ, but appropriate counting means that she knows it's just the Psyshock and the tanky Lapras can survive. Now already has that Sparkling Aria ready for the Amarouge in the back.
And although she has plenty of energy, she is down a shield, so it means that she needs to reach three sparkling areas, and I think she's gonna get incinerated down before Pocket even reaches two Psyshocks here.
Oh yeah, is one more Incinerate going to knock the Lapras out? No, not quite. And I don't think this is enough for a shield KO. I think that's maybe 2 points of HP left for the Lapras, but another Psyshock is already ready from the Amarouge here and does knock out this Lapras. Oh, goodness. Three
Yeah, that
Pokemon
was
left.
Yeah, that was a bit tough. Unfortunate shield calls from AJ there, letting through some really hard hitting moves. Shadow Ball, I think, was a great call from Pocket.
Mhm.
He had a good amount of energy. He had a hard hitting Armarouge in the back, so even if it goes shielded, then Armarouge is going to have no shields left to, to defend against its charge attacks, and its charge attacks are just as threatening, if not more threatening.
Yeah, that attack stat alone makes them more threatening than those exact same moves on other Pokemon. So now we are in our third game. We see a really tough lead for Final Boss AJ Galvantula against the Mew. So a quick swap to her Kanto Ninetales against this Galvantula, which already has enough energy to throw the discharge.
And this is pretty good for Final Boss AJ. She's been able to desync the timers, and Out of Pocket took a lot of fast attack damage from those embers. Getting off her first Weather Ball Fire is going to do a good amount of chip damage to the Chimecho. I like the Weather Ball Fire here because it'll allow her to potentially get to a second earlier, and she does before Pocket's able to reach his first charge attack.
Yes, and though this is not enough to knock out, it does look like Pocket was going for that Psyshock, but an Astonish went through instead, meaning that the Kanto Ninetales does get to ember down that Chimecho and has a little bit of energy ready for this Amarouge. Can it get to the Scorching Sands? Yes, before the Incinerate goes all the way through, forcing a shield from Out of Pocket.
Very importantly, it was only 6 embers there to that Scorching Sands and not 7, so it allows her to not have to rely on surviving a third Incinerate here. Though it is a good amount of energy to Out of Pocket's Armarouge, we see the first Flame Charge no shielded. This is going to do a lot of good neutral damage here. Takes the Mew down into the yellow, and I don't know. It might have been worth shielding that one because you're getting pretty close to an incinerate down now.
Yeah, don't think I think we're gonna need two incinerates. One won't quite be enough, but the Mew is not quite at its charged attacks yet. So we see a swap from AJ before that incinerate can go through to this Lapras waiting in the back with so much health. But two Psyshocks are loaded from the Amarouge, and they are buffed by that flame charge. So both shields now going down from Final Boss AJ, and that Galvantula from the lead is still lurking in the back.
But reaches a Sparkling Aria. I think this is going to be enough to knock out the Galvantula, and there are no shields remaining from Pocket. I was a little bit surprised to see the second shield from her, but this outpacing now means that I think she's going to secure victory in this game. I don't think the
Ooh.
Armourouge has enough in the tank to knock out the Lapras, and Final
Mhm.
Boss AJ is going to claw one game back.
Yeah, exactly. Really good knowledge of the Lapras in the back there and how valuable it could be up energy. Just having to navigate it into the right matchup, I think. And the slow timing of Incinerate really helped her in that last game.
Yeah, she did a number of great timing mechanics there, really showing off her knowledge as a competitor here.
Mhm.
And she kept the Mew alive. I might have preferred her to switch it out immediately so that the Lapras could start ramping up on energy a bit earlier, but she made a different play, which I don't necessarily disagree with. She went for 4 Shadow Claws and then switching into the Lapras, which allows
Mhm.
her to build up more energy. And if the Mew ever faced off against the Armarouge again, it could do one more Shadow Claw and then throw a charged attack and
Mhm.
not take damage from an incinerate, whereas the second incinerate damage from the original interaction would have knocked her out, and it potentially allows her to get more energy and get an additional charge attack off, whereas she wouldn't have been able to get that in the original scenario.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was
Exactly.
really long-winded, but hopefully it made some sense.
No, it does make sense. It's a really interesting detail about move timing. It's no longer just about counting the moves themselves. It's about understanding how that energy actually is counted and how the timer actually functions around that attack timing as well. Both of those things being in your head is going to allow you to navigate these sort of tough matchups, as we've seen across many of the battles here, demonstrated very well by Final Boss AJ in that last battle. But Out of Pocket has been manipulating that incinerate timer for all of these games as well.
Yeah, it it brings up a an interesting point of do you want to time your moves for optimal energy, or do you want to time it for optimal damage taken, right? In the
Mhm.
2 versus 5 scenario, throwing 2 fast attacks from your 2 turn user into the 5 turn user is generally optimal, but for energy, but for damage, you would only want to throw one. And I think really navigating the pathways between these different options is what a good way for trainers to really improve their battling skills here, and maybe for anyone out there looking to take down Pocket at any future tournaments, you could really prep on those skills, because it seems like it's absolutely necessary. He's been on a tear in the Devon scene. I know you said he didn't have the best performance at NAIC ever. I had mentioned pre-show that I want to throw a little jab at him there. I got it in at our
We can't
closing here, but
Yeah, we can't let him rest on too many laurels, right? You gotta keep it fresh. Gotta keep him on his toes.
absolutely not.
All right. Well, those were the games of Out of Pocket in the North American International Showdown, showcasing how he dominated the tournament. Congrats to Pocket on his victory. Well earned, well demonstrated in this very unique meta by the Devon Corporation. So, congrats to him for double earning an invite. And congrats to everyone else that has qualified for the Devon World Championships, whether you are a showcase winner or won through the invitationals or have earned your way up through the leaderboard. Well done, everyone. So keep an eye on the social media for Devon Corporation, as well as their Discord server, for further announcements about that World Championship and when exactly it will be taking place. I know I look forward to seeing what spicy picks and what spicy meta they come up with next. Thank you as well to our production team and everyone at the Devon Corporation who works on putting together these tournaments. And thank you, Phoebe, Alpha Phoebe, for joining me tonight to cover these incredible battles. So you take the mic now and let people know where they can find you.
Well, you can find me on Twitter, twitter.com/alphafeed. I'd also like to do my thank yous. Thanks for Devon for having me. I, of course, got my starts in the pogo scene with grassroots, so grassroots will always hold a soft spot in my heart. Thanks, Cass, for joining me. It's always a blast to cast with you. Thanks to production, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the world's meta looks like. Looking forward to see who wins it all. You know, obviously Pocket's put a strong name out for himself there. Big congratulations to Pocket. You know, I like to, razz the guy up a little bit every once in a while. Can't let him get his ego too big, but he is one of the goats of the Go community. So big congratulations to him.
Yes, indeed. It's always a pleasure to cast with you as well. I don't think I would be as up to date on my quick maths if it wasn't for our many wonderful interactions. And yeah, we will have to see how Pocket continues to show up in the Devon format. These friendships, these back and forths that we have, with our fellow trainers, both the good and the bad, is one of the great things about this community and the grassroots circuit in particular. So it's been a real pleasure to bring these battles to you all tonight. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next time.